Hey everybody, Chris Peters here from Nashville at the 2023 NHL Draft, and it's all over. All the picks have been made, and so now it's time to throw out some NHL draft grades, and we got a few for you. The easiest one, A+ to the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, you get Connor Bedard, you get Oliver Moore, you even got Adam Guyan, who's one of the top goaltenders. A lot of skill in their group that they got, tons of picks, and really, I mean, this was a franchise-changing moment for them just when they won the draft lottery. They knew they were going to get Connor Bedard, then they added more assets to it. I think they're thrilled about the pick of Oliver Moore in particular. They get the best skater in the draft. They get a guy that's going to play down the middle with Connor Bedard. That's going to be exciting as well for them long term. I think Adam Guyan really could be one of those picks that is going to be super exciting for them. He is a high upside goaltender. He's going to play in the USHL next year and go to Minnesota Duluth the year after that. Burst onto the scene at the USHL. We had a great story about him on FloHockey about how he was kind of came out of nowhere. You can also watch that one on YouTube as well, as he explains how nobody knew who he was a year ago, and now he is a second-round NHL draft pick, the first goalie off the board. Outside of Chicago, let's keep it in the Central Division. An A grade for the St. Louis Blues. They had 3 first-round picks. They went with Dalibor Dvorsky, Otto Stenberg, and Theo Lindstein. And now, getting 3 first-round picks is great, but they also made some big plays on day 2. Quentin Burns, one of the most physical defensemen in the draft. They got a number of good skill players throughout, which is going to help them long term. But I think the St. Louis Blues are going to be thrilled knowing that they got a potential center that could be a top 6 center in Dvorsky, a good two-way guy. They got a great defensive defenseman in Theo Lindstein, and they also got a very strong two-way forward in Otto Stenberg, who plays with speed and skill. I think that those are guys that are going to play to their identity. That is going to be a great pick for them. And I think that this is a team that just got a lot of depth. And so this is a team that's not quite rebuilding, but they are retooling. And I think that this draft class is really going to help them. So I really like what the Blues did. One other team I wanted to give a great grade to is the Nashville Predators. I think getting Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk in the first round, those are 2 guys that have high upside. You got Wood with the size, you got Molendyk with the skating. You know, there's some scoring there, and then they also made some really key day 2 picks as well. And then the last pick of the draft was made by David Poile in his final NHL draft, one of the great GMs in the history of this game, and he picked Aiden Fink out of the AJHL. That was his last pick, one of the best players in Canadian Junior A. So great to see that that player got picked, and also that David Poile was allowed to make that last pick as he goes off into the sunset and retires with a great career. Well, we talked about the good teams. We got to talk about the teams that didn't do so well, and there's one team that really stands out, and it's more because they didn't have a lot of picks, but it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. They did have a first-round pick. They went off the board to get Easton Cowan. That was a big shock in the draft. He was 70th on FloHockey's top 100, and then they picked him in the first round. I think that that was a guy that a lot of teams came around to later in the season, especially with how he played in the playoffs, but that was a bit of a surprise. Then they only had 2 other picks in the draft, so it's really hard to build anything for your prospect system if you only have 3 picks, and then you also take such a reach in the first round. So a D- grade for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It is the lowest grade of the draft. They are probably, not going to love that, but I think that there's a lot that they have at the NHL level right now where they're not as concerned about these things, but it will come into play later on. So it'll be interesting to watch Easton Cowan's development. Does that pick hold up over time? But only time will tell. Well, folks, it's been a lot of fun covering the NHL draft from here in Nashville. We've got a ton of great video content as well over on YouTube, over on Facebook. So make sure you are following us on all of our social media, but make sure you're also checking out at FloHockey and FloHockey.tv for all NHL draft coverage. We're going to have much, much more for you in the coming days and weeks, including our way too early top 24 NHL draft rankings. Yes, it's already time for that. We're turning the page on 2023, so plenty more to come. Thanks for joining us so far. We look forward to bringing you much more content here on FloHockey. My name's Chris Peters, and we'll see you next time.